Good morning, boys and girls, moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas. Today we're going to talk about a miracle that Jesus did. A miracle is something that God can do, but typically you and I can't do. And this happened at a wedding in a small town called Cana. And even today, there is a little town that's called Kiefer Cana that's near the Sea of Galilee. And there are two churches that were built to commemorate or remember this miracle that Jesus did. And that little town is surrounded with olive and pomegranate trees. And it's very beautiful. Well, one day, the day of the wedding, Jesus, his disciples, his mother Mary, and probably most of the people in this little town all gathered together for a wedding. And of course, it was a very special day, a celebration. And we're going to celebrate a wedding in our church too, or one of our church members. Her name is Kelsey Steely, and she's getting married on the 22nd of February. And again, it will be a celebration. Well, this celebration that Jesus was at had been going on for a little while, but his mother noticed there was a problem. They were running out of wine, and the celebration was not even half over. And so she told Jesus, she said, "There's not hardly any wine left." And she said to some men that were standing nearby, "Do whatever he tells you to do." Well, Jesus told these men to pick up these jugs of water. Now, these jugs of water were huge. You could probably, as a small child anyway, get into one of those jugs. They were very big, and it took two men to carry them, one on one side and one on the other. And Jesus told the men, he says, "Now go take these jugs and fill them up with water." So that's what they did. And they took the water in to where they were celebrating. And there was a most important guest who was sitting next to the bridegroom. Here's the bridegroom. And the most important guest, we sometimes call those VIPs today, or very important persons, we don't know the person's name, said, "Oh, this is wonderful. Usually, the best wine is served first, and the less good wine is served last. But you've saved the best for the last." Well, of course, it was because Jesus turned the water into wine. And that was one of his first miracles there at this wedding in this little town called Cana. Here you see the bride, all dressed in her beautiful clothes. Different wedding clothes than what brides typically wear in our traditions today. Here's the bridegroom. They had all kinds of food for people to eat and drink. And they had musicians. Over here you see some music instruments from that time period. A harp, a mandolin, and an instrument somewhat like a flute. And so there was singing and dancing, and people were celebrating. Because when we have a wedding, we're celebrating the beginning of a family. And sometimes those beginnings of a family are celebrated by all these other people and their families. And it's wonderful, isn't it? Well, a marriage is talked about in the Bible in another way. Jesus tells us that someday he will return as the bridegroom, and people who are part of the church are the bride. And if we believe in Jesus, that's you and me, the church. The church will be the bride, and Jesus will be the bridegroom. And that will be the beginning of God's eternal kingdom and family. And like I said, if we believe in Jesus, we are part of that, and we'll be part of that wonderful wedding that will someday occur. We don't know when, but we know that it will occur someday. Isn't that a wonderful promise? So we can be part of God's family. Just like a wedding is a new family, a new beginning for a family, we can be part of God's family, His children. I think that's a wonderful promise. And I hope you'll remember that. And if you go to a wedding, remember that someday you'll be part of a wedding with Jesus. He'll be the bridegroom and we'll be the bride. Won't that be a wonderful, wonderful celebration? So think about this. When you are thinking about a wedding, I know a lot of times we think of a wedding as just a time to celebrate, but it's much more than that. It's the beginning of a family, and it's the beginnings of us remembering that we are part of God's family, part of His kingdom here on earth. Thank you so much. Have a good week. Bye.